Welcome, my friends, to the Sage of Quay Radio Hour, your home for free and critical thinking, and I'm your host, Mike Williams. Tonight, a very special guest is Ole Dammegård. Ole is one of the preeminent researchers studying and revealing the dark business of assassination. He is a prize-winning author, investigator, and former journalist. Ole dedicated more than 30 years of his life to solve the mystery behind the assassination of the Swedish Prime Minister, Olof Palme, a dangerous undertaking which cost the lives of two of his colleagues. His extensive research has also revealed incredible links to other political events, like the killing of John F. Kennedy, John Lennon, Robert Kennedy, and many others, as well as the cold-blooded sinking of the MS Estonia, which resulted in the loss of almost 1,000 innocent lives. Ole's work is completely self-funded, so if you could take a moment after the show and visit his website, lightonconspiracies.com, and consider donating or sponsoring his work, it would be greatly appreciated. For tonight's discussion, Ole explains how he ventured into the field of assassination research, along with explaining how assassinations are carried out according to a prescribed template. We also discuss the pyramid of power controlled by a small group of elites who are driving the world toward a one-world fascist state. And we finish up our conversation with Ole offering his perspectives and insights into how humanity can unshackle and live an existence of freedom. And to kick the show off, I asked Ole how he became interested in researching assassinations, and here is what he had to say.
Well, for me, my trip sort of started in the early 80s. It was, at that time, I grew up in a family in Denmark. My body was born in Denmark, and my family was deeply involved in the resistance movement against the Nazi occupation during the Second World War. My father was in the resistance movement. My granddad was in jail for helping Jews. My grandmother's sister was smuggling weapons to the guerrilla movements in the baby cot and so on. So I grew up with all of these stories about how important it is to not buy into the official version, to stand up for what is true and right, even though it can be very, very scary. Even if it's a David and Goliath struggle, you still have to do it. You know, if your heart tells you, your heart will always tell you what is right. And even though you might be very scared, that's the way to go anyway. And I know when I was about 16 or 17, I was with a friend in a Friday night in town, and there was a local bully that started arguing with him, and I was threatening him. And I was weak. I turned away, and the other guy got beaten, not badly, but he got beaten. And after that, I felt so awful about what I've done. So I promised myself from now on, I will back down for nothing. You know, if I see somebody being harassed or molested or threatened, I'm going to stand the ground. You know, I just promised myself that. And then sometimes in the early 80s, for some reason I became almost obsessed with the JFK assassination, trying to understand what really happened that day, because I found on a very early stage that we were being lied to big time. So it didn't make any sense, the official story. They were just like lies on lies and lies. And that took me down a road where I think I read a couple of hundred books on the JFK assassination. Then that sort of indirectly brought me into the Martin Luther King assassination, the Robert Kennedy assassination, the Malcolm X assassination, and so on. And it was a very confusing journey to start with, because, for instance, one book that felt very credible could describe a certain person as working for the CIA. Then in another book that I found very credible, the exact same person was part of the mob, a hitman for the mob. Then in a third one, he was paid by the FBI to do jobs. And in a fourth one, he was doing extra work for the Secret Service. And I just got very, very confused. So I started writing my own book just for myself, trying to sort out all of these layers, because I thought some of them must be wrong, you know, because it's on so many different levels and with so many people involved in a similar situation. And then in the end, over the years, I found that no, they were all correct. The same person could work for the CIA, be a hitman for the mob, sometimes jumping extra for the Secret Service, and be financed by the FBI. And that was just like incredible, because I started seeing very clearly how the CIA and the mob were, it's so in bed with each other that many times it was very different to see where the border was, where it was, because they were so entangled, and where the FBI very often were the people going in, covering up, covering up what had happened, getting rid of all kind of evidence, pointing fake evidence at the patsy, and so on, and also financing and training some of the people who were, and some of the groups that were later painted out black as being the culprits and so on. So very confusing to start with. But then over the years I started seeing almost like a template. It was nothing that I found. I just found the similarities in these cases and many other cases, almost like a template that they were using, like a bullet point list, like point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how to commit an assassination on a very high level, and how to dupe the population into believing that it was the deed of a lone crazy guy. The reason they always want a lone crazy guy is then if he's alone, then there's no conspiracy, there's no planning, there's no conspiracy by law, so they don't have to look into it as a conspiracy. And the reason for him that they want him crazy is because then there's no motive either. He was alone, he was crazy, he killed him. Case closed, thank you very much. Thank you folks, goodbye, and go home. Have a nice evening, and we'll just bury this case, get rid of the patsy. And then in 1986, the Swedish Prime Minister was gunned down in the streets of Stockholm, which was a national trauma in Sweden. It was, up until that point, Sweden was like, it was famous all over the world for being so peaceful. The Swedish Prime Minister was, he was walking the streets without bodyguards. There was hardly any criminality, no crimes, no corruption, all of these things. And then this happened. Absolute national trauma. And here again, we were very early on served a lone crazy guy or a lone crazy organization. So to start with, I thought, I was born in Denmark, but I grew up in Sweden. And I believed, like anyone else, that I'm in a beautiful country, beautiful democracy. I can trust the police. There's no corruption. And of course, the police will sort this out within a few months. They'll find the one that did it, and so very sad that he died, but it would be solved. And then the months started passing, and after a while I started seeing the exact same bullet point list being carried out in Sweden. And I thought, but how is this possible? How can these things follow the same bullet point list if they're not connected? So I compared to the other cases, and I saw like, okay, the JFK assassination, they did doop, 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 and now we're at 0.7 or whatever it was. Robert Kennedy, same thing. Now Martin Luther King, same thing. 0.7 would be whatever that was. This type of evidence would be found that would point in a certain direction. So I said, if they follow the same, then this would be the next step in Sweden. My God, freaked me out. That was exactly what happened in Sweden. It just blew my mind, because suddenly I understood that, oh my God, what I'm looking at is that, for one thing, Sweden is an illusion of a democracy, an illusion of not being corrupted, an illusion of the police being good guys and so on, and that somehow this assassination is connected to the other ones. Otherwise, how could they use the same template, the exact same steps? Not saying that they're carried out in the same way on a street level. The way that the person is killed can differ, but the whole setup with a patsy, with a fake investigation, their own investigation, the whole mess up of the crime scene, the whole delay of everything, the whole setup with commissions being appointed down the road when they're trying to cover the whole thing and the population won't will still be criticizing it and so on. I saw the exact same things. So at that point, I had been working as a journalist for some years, and I just felt, oh my God, I need to go there. So I dropped my job, I quit, I moved to Stockholm, I became a bus driver, and I was cleaning toilets and whatever it took to keep me alive. So I was working during the day, and then in the evenings and weekends, I was full-time trying to find out what had happened in Sweden. And I joined up with a small little group of what was called the private investigators, private people, former police officers, lawyers, you name it, very, very kind and concerned citizens. Just a small group, we were like 8 or 9 people that was very, very worried about what had happened in Sweden and the development that had taken place in Sweden right in front of our eyes. The thing was that I've written a book about it. It's called Coup d'etat in slow motion. It was a coup d'etat, but carried out in slow motion so that people would not notice that what had actually happened. After the shots were fired, the changes were so slow and sort of like a stepping stone, a little here, a little there, a little there, a little here, so that people would not see that they were connected. And then, but over the years, the Swedish society has totally changed from before the assassination and up until today.
Ollie, in what ways did it change? The Swedish society.
Sweden was very famous, at least that's what people in Sweden were being told, but famous in the world for being very taking care of the weak, the poor, being taking the most refugees, giving the most to countries in need, donating loads and loads of money, standing up for the weak in society and so on, with very high taxes, but also very high health care and a massive safety net for the population. But now it's gone so right wing, that it's the surface is beautiful and polished. Everybody has a great life material wise, but otherwise than that, it's me, and mine. Mm-hmm. Very much self-centered. And also you can see that the whole society has gone extremely right wing, which is a very sad experience to see that.
Well, it's very similar to what we have here in the United States, as you know. It's the same mentality.
But this is the thing. It's not only the same mentality, it is the same power elite that, at least according to what I've found out after 30 years, is that it is the same power elite, a small group of international people from all different countries gathering in secret groups like the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, the Council of Foreign Relations, the Committee of 300, Skull and Bones, these type of groups where members are often member in more than one. This is not the absolute top of the power pyramid, but it's way up there. And what they're doing is that they're they're working according to what they call the New World Order. They want the whole world to be under centralized power, like a one world fascist state, I must say, a one world state, no borders, no national identity, with a one world army.
Okay, so this was the first of several Skype disconnects that we experienced during the interview with Ollie, and with that we also lost, unfortunately, some of the recording. But we pick up the conversation with Ollie explaining how he went about his investigation into the assassination of Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme.
I met many of the witnesses. I met many of the police involved, assassins and so on as well. But they were never, as far as I know, not aware of who I was. I was standing, somebody else was talking to them. I was standing back to back with them. I was standing in the background. I was in the same TV studio. I was at the same police station. But they did not know that why I was there. And I was just trying everything I could to find out as much as possible. I also spent thousands of hours in archives. I spent going through all the documents about, the witnesses. I tracked down many of the witnesses that was anonymous. And I also spent thousands of hours with other members of this small group of private investigators, because they had spent so years of their lives gathering information on their own in different areas of this assassination. So I went to each and every single one of them, trying to learn as much as possible. And they were just happy. I mean, they didn't really know who I was. They were just like happy to share that. I mean, finally somebody who wants to listen. But I was gathering all this information all the time, getting it together in a book. The book I mentioned before, Coup d'etat in slow motion. You can find it on my website, lightonconspiracies.com. It is the whole story, the pictures, the names, the maps, the handwritten letters, the documentation, you name it, it's there. It's almost 1,000 pages. And also with all the connections to other major assassinations, like the JFK assassination, the Iran-Contra scandal, and all of these things, because they are so connected. This is what most people are not aware of. These events are very, very connected.
And when you say connected, Ole, in what way are they connected?
I'm going to come back to that afterwards, because we're going to talk about the John Lennon assassination and Bob Marley and so on. And you will see that it's the same power structure, the same people behind the agenda, but they also use the same mechanics. They also use the same assassins in many, many, many of these events. I would be happy to go into great detail about that soon. So that is, I think, my main contribution over these 30 years is that I've been able to pull like a red thread between these things, showing that they're actually connected, that I thought they were very separate events. I had no idea when I started that they were connected, but then I found the exact same assassins taking place or taking part again and again and again and again. And I heard an interview once with one of the people in the elite, and they said, "But how come you use the same people?" And he said, "But why change your winning team? You got the best. Why not use them? Why would you use someone else?" Anyway, two of my friends in this group were not very sensitive to the powers they were up against. They were just pushing, and both of them very sadly ended up dead. I had a visit as well, and it freaked me out, and I decided to leave Sweden because it was getting too close. I didn't want to become a statistic, so I and my family, we decided to move from Sweden. We moved here to Spain, and I've been living here now for almost 15 years.
Were you ever directly threatened, Ole?
Not face to face, but what they did was they have, just like with a mob, what they do is that they come to your home when you're not there. They pass whatever locks or alarms, whatever you have. They go into your house, and what they do is they make a statement. What they show you is that we see you, we know what you're up to. But instead of messing the whole place up and making something, what they do is they just rearrange the furniture, or they turn around, put big stacks of books on the table. In my case, they had, I came home, I was living in a small little one-room flat, so I noticed that somebody had been pulling my bookshelves up, everything in the bookshelf had gone to the right. I noticed somebody had gone through my papers. Then my toothbrush was with a cutlery in the kitchen, and there was also one of the photos that I'd taken from the murder site. We went there the day after it happened. One of the photos that was taken there was there was all these flowers and a big sign saying, why was a true Democrat murdered? That photo was stuck underneath my bathtub, and with the colors dissolved, so it looked like blood was running over it. So this was just like, what should I do? Like call the police and say, somebody put my toothbrush in the cutlery. My God, you need to come and help me. It's like, but this is what they do. Another one of my friends, they took away all the handles of the shelves in the kitchen, and the drawers in the kitchen. They just took them off. And why? Just to make a statement. We see you. If you don't back off, something bad's going to happen, And I've spoken to researchers globally, many of them had similar experiences like this. Also, people who have been threatened by the mob. The mob works exactly the same way.
To validate what you're saying, I had an interview with David Dees. David does the political art, and I think David was living in Sweden also, and he had said the exact same thing was happening to him, where his house would be locked up, and he would come home and he would find furniture and stuff in the house rearranged.
And I even met one of the people who I think was in my apartment, but I met him last year outside the Bilderberg meeting. Really scary, but this is the thing, and he confirmed that this is the way they do it.
Yeah.
And then if you do not listen, I've seen one chapter in my book is called Strange Deaths, and then you see that very often 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, somebody knocks on your door, and then you go for a swim, never to be found again. They find your clothes will be put very nicely on the beach, and you're just drowned, or you end up in a car crash somewhere, where nobody knows how you ended up there. These type of so it is. This is the thing. Once you start digging into these things, when you really start making progress, I'm not saying just talking about theories or anything like that, but when you really start digging into it, you really start identifying things that nobody else has seen, that's when you get yourself into a minefield. And it's very scary because you never know if you stepped on a mine until it's too late, when it explodes. So you need to tread very carefully.
How does relocating mitigate the risk? In other words, how does moving make the risk less of a risk? Wouldn't they just follow you or have somebody else track you down?
But the thing was, I just disappeared. I didn't say to anyone hardly where I went or and so on. And I think they just thought, okay, they didn't see me as a major threat. I think they just saw me as, oh, here comes another one. One of these guys. Get him to back off, because eliminating people is messy. They really try to avoid that. So first they scare you, then maybe they beat you up or discredit you by, it's very easy. You work in an office, you leave your computer, suddenly somebody finds like 5,000 pedophile pictures in the computer, and it's just a local scandal. You're screwed. It's very easy. Or a credit card fraud type of thing. Very easy. They set you up, or they just transfer some money into your account, like a big sum of money, and just say, where did this money come from? They talk to the tax office. The tax office goes in and see, oh my God, he's got like 200,000. Where did that come from? Must be tax fraud. And then the whole thing gets started. You get into courtrooms and trials, and while you're there, they just withdraw the money out of your account again. It's so easy to set people up, And if that is not enough, then that's when it gets heavy duty. They hit you hard. They kill your dog, they kill your child, or they kill you. It's simple. And I have this from inside sources in the CIA as well. One of my friends nowadays is Chip Tatum, a former deep cover agent for the CIA for 25 years. He's now a whistleblower. He was one of the Night Stalker pilot, a black op assassin. He was one of the pilots in the Iran-Contra scandal. He was also one of the members in the ultra-secret hit team Pegasus under the direct control of George Bush Sr. So the real thing, I tell you, this guy has an incredible background. And I've had the honor to get to know him. I totally respect his bravery of standing up against this power elite, even though I cannot accept his background at all, what he's been up to. He's been involved in many assassinations and awful stuff, absolute awful stuff. But through him, I've had a lot of inside information about how these things are carried out and so on. So it's been very interesting.
It's interesting with Chip. I know he writes periodically for Veterans Today, and so I was going to ask you, with his background and your friendship with him today, is there a conflict? I mean, do you struggle with that sometimes, knowing what he used to do and the type of guy he is today?
I did in the beginning. It was very confusing. After the first talk with him, I was lying, I couldn't fall asleep that night because my mind was just going around. Because here is what is, in one way, a monster. I mean, here's somebody who has tortured people, who has harassed them, killed them, blown them up, whatever. Awful, awful stuff. At the same time, here's also a person who have had the incredible integrity and bravery of standing up against these people and survived it. He's still alive, even though they wanted him dead many, many times, I tell you. So it's confusing, and I've also asked him very personal questions about these things, about his whole life, because he's been involved with assassins and military people on a high level his whole life, his whole adult life. He's been working directly under all the presidents personally, from Nixon and onwards, flying them here, there, everywhere, carrying out things, doing all kinds of undercover stuff.
But you're knowing Chip and having a friendship with him, do you sense that, or do you have a fear that puts your life in greater risk?
No, I know the risks of this game, and I've accepted them. I sure would like to stay here for a while longer, but I know also that you have to accept, if you really want to make a difference for the world, this is part of it. There's so many beautiful people that are no longer with us because they have been standing up for these beautiful values that is the absolute opposite of what this, I would call them, a very, very brutal and deadly war machine that has death and destruction that's the agenda. Control, total power control, and with very, very weird satanic roots and so on. So they are hard-hitting, and they deal very violently with problems, and they see truth seekers, real truth seekers, as a problem. The truth is what they have a problem with. Everything else they can control, but they need to cover over the truth. But the way I see it is like somebody has to do this. Otherwise we're screwed. We're going down a very dark hole. But by exposing it, totally non-violent, in a peaceful way, but just putting the spotlight right at them, totally fearlessly, pointing it right at them, that will help to expose their methods. And it's so easy to do that because they haven't got a lot of imagination. They're using the same again and again and again. It's like almost ridiculous, and even more ridiculous that we have been buying it for so many years, the exact same agenda again and again and again. So I think really we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, come on, what? I mean, it's not okay anymore. People are suffering and being killed on a daily basis because we're asleep. This is not okay anymore.
No, it's not okay.
We really need to shape up, and smell the coffee. And it is painful to wake up. It is painful to see that we've been duped and tricked and so on for so many years, because it's a spiritual awakening, but it's also like an unlearning experience, because so much of this information and history that you've been fed is just based on absolute lies, and it's very hard to get grips of, come to terms with until you start opening up. So not easy.
Ole, you had mentioned earlier that if you are a true truth seeker, that you run the risk of possibly winding up on their radar. So my question is, when is that line crossed? In other words, what level of research and investigation do you need to be doing? What types of things do you need to be exposing that might get you in trouble?
I think if you just sit and surf on the internet, I'm sorry, that's great, but you have to be aware that there's so much disinformation out there as well. Also, information that is mixed, some truth, some lies, to dilute the real truth. I think it's very positive. Anybody who does it with a clean intention of really trying to find out, I call them truth seekers. But to get on the radar, nowadays there's so many people looking into these things, so that is not really a problem. It's more when you get specific information, that is when you become a threat to them. Before the internet, when for instance, I had a lot of this information only on my shoulders, especially after these two of my friends died. So it was very, very scary because the only thing they needed was to eliminate me, and poof, it was gone. So I didn't know what to do with this. I mean, I finished the book in 2001. I did have no idea what I was going to do with it. I approached a few companies, but it was very scary to come and show this information, because this international network with Freemasonry networks and so on, it's very hard to know who you can trust. And one of the people I gave it to was Michael Moore's agent in Sweden. And he had it for a month and so on. He gave it back and he said, if you publish this, you will be sued from here to the moon. This is a bomb of truth. And which was, I was happy to get that. At the same time, it just confirmed that, my God, what am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
So it came to a point in 2012 where nobody had heard about me. I tell you, nobody knew that I was into this. Nobody. And then I just came to a point one day. I just felt I want to get it out there. So I set up like a network of people I knew globally, and I said, within the next hour, I'm going to email you this PDF file, this book. Please save it, share it with as many people as possible, as soon as possible. So I had like 20 people waiting for it, and I just pumped it out there. And within an hour, it was spread all over the world and saved down in multiple computers everywhere and backups and so on. And I felt so relieved because it took the pressure from my shoulders. It was out there. What I did not know was that suddenly this started like a tidal wave of international interest. And since December 2012, I've been on hundreds of radio shows all over the world, and only, I would say, none, maybe one in Sweden. That says a lot, doesn't it? I mean, I've been on countless in the States, countless in England, Ireland, you name it, Sweden, more or less zero.
Well, the first time I heard you, you were on Henrik's show, and you were going through the Kennedy assassination. And if I'm not mistaken, I was blown away because it sounded like you were going through the entire assassination from memory, just off the top of your head. And it was just amazing to me, And after that, I said, I got to find out who Ole is.
Thank you, Mike. It's a compliment. At the same time, JFK is only one part. Without bragging, I've been welcomed as one of the leading experts in the world on that assassination, and Olof Palme as well, and so on. But my head has so much more information in there. And this is what I feel, I'm not trying to convince anyone. I'm just not trying to push this on anyone. I just want to share it. This is 30 years of my life. Please use it for something good. Let the truth get out there so that we can lift this world to the next level, transcend this obstacle, transcend and neutralize this very dark agenda. And I think we're doing a good job. People like you, people like me, myself, and other researchers, because I really think that there's a major transformation going on now at the moment.
Let me ask, if we go back to Chip for a second, Ole, does Chip ever say or comment on the fact that there are indeed good guys within the alphabet agencies, within the CIA as an example, that are pushing up against this wicked agenda? In other words, we're going to fight this tooth and nail. I mean, do we have that faction within the CIA, the FBI, and so on, or is it basically a bunch of foot soldiers and decision makers that are going to push the New World Order agenda up and over the goal line?
When it comes to the CIA, he's not been involved with the FBI as far as I know. The CIA, the DIA, these are the areas where he's been.
Okay.
And he says that I don't think he's as optimistic as I am. He says that when there are people like himself guarding, protecting their agenda, it's very, very hard to get close to them. And this is why I'm planning on doing a show together with Chip and an English radio host who is a war veteran. He was in the Royal Air Force, a police officer, riot police, and so on. So he was on the other side of the fence, if you know what I mean. And through these two people, which I feel both of them have good hearts, very strong integrity. Chip is very unique, I would say. This is also why he's still alive, being one of the few that has stood up against them. But through these people, I really, my intention is that to try and reach the hearts of people in uniform, in these agencies, in the CIA, in the NSA, in the FBI, in the police forces, in the SWAT teams, in all of these people working in FEMA camps and so on, to get to the heart of them, reminding them of who they are, and also to really see if they can wake up to the fact that they're being totally used and that they're being duped into supporting and protecting this very, very dark agenda by people that could not give a shit about them.
Right.
They are only empty uniforms to this elite. They see them, even when they're killed, they see them as collateral damage. Sometimes it's good for the agenda to get the numbers up there. And even if you're a general, with a high-ranking colonel or whatever, does not matter, because the more powerful you get up there, maybe you feel good, you got all these medals and a nice uniform, you can scream and shout and get thousands of people to do what you say. But if you study history, every single dictator, as far as I know, once they're up there and the military commander starts becoming too powerful, chop, 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 heads are rolling, and then new generals in place, another year, when they become too powerful, chop, 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 because the dictator will see them as a threat. So nobody is safe, because they're not being cared for at all by these people that they're serving.
Right. They're discardable.
Totally. I mean, people like Henry Kissinger so poetically put it, cannon fodder or useless eaters. That's the way they see us.
That's right.
And people in uniform who are doubting me, I'm just saying, what caring commander would pump you full of all these awful, awful vaccines, where some of them are labeled in the patents weapon of mass destruction? I mean, the patents of some of these vaccines. Who would expose his men, his loyal knights of honor? Who would expose them for depleted uranium in all of these war zones? Who would do all of these medical experiments that now it's historical facts? Hundreds. Who would not take care of the veterans coming home? Who would let them turn into absolute wrecks? Homeless people with no dignity, no honor, no social welfare, no care, no hospital care. I mean, Chip is very much into taking care of the veterans because these are his people. He really cares for them and so on. And he says that, if I understood it right, to get your case gone through by the authorities, a normal waiting list is 6 years as a war veteran. 6 years when you have to wait. And this is one of the groups where there's the most suicides. I think there's more suicides among war veterans that there are people getting killed in action.
Well, and they also pump them up with psychotropic drugs. Many of our soldiers, guys and gals, 4 to 5 psychotropics a day, they're being prescribed while they're in the military. By the end of it, they're completely out of their minds, and when they go home, they are shells of what they used to be, and that's why the suicide rate for many of these folks has skyrocketed.
It is also, if I can be a bit blunt on your show, Mike, people in uniform, especially in the American forces, the American Army forces or armed forces, please understand that when you hear about so-called terrorist countries like Iran, Sudan, Libya, North Korea, and so on, look at these countries, study history, ask yourself, how many countries have these so-called aggressive countries, how many wars have they started? Iran, none as far as I know, the last 100 years or something like that. Iraq, one against Iran. Libya, none, and so on. Very, very few. Then we look at the mirror. We turn the mirror towards the States. How many wars have the US started since the assassination of Kennedy? We are talking up in the hundreds. In the hundreds. You have military bases in more than 150 countries. For defense, that is what it's called. They put these beautiful labels, Operation Freedom, Operation Stardust, Operation whatever, to dupe you into believing that what you're doing is something honorable and beautiful and you're fighting for freedom and democracy. I'm sorry if I'm the bringer of bad news. They train you as brutal assassins for their agenda. And their agenda is based on absolute and total greed. It is weapons, drugs, oil, pedophile trafficking, organ trafficking, all of these things. That is why you're going to these countries, to get hold of the central banks in these countries, to totally blow them up and then build them up for taxpayers' monies and so on. This is so tragic, I think, because so many beautiful young people sign up and think that they're going to go out there and do something good. I'm very sorry. You're in for a major surprise. And also, please understand that whatever atrocity is carried out, if you are part of it, it is your karma. You have to live with it. It is, even if somebody is shouting in your ear, shoot that bugger, shoot him. Even if it's a direct order, you are the one who has to live with it. You are the one who will have the blood of innocent victims on your hands. So I would really, from the bottom of my heart, please inform yourself about the agenda that is going on, so that you at least see clearly what you're involved in, and then it's up to you to make an adult decision. Do I want to do this? Am I okay with living this? Is this my decision? And so on.
What I tell folks, Oli, is that the Western world is run by a massive organized crime syndicate. As you were saying, they are not interested in the people. They're not interested in sovereignty and liberty and freedom and all that stuff. It's organized crime.
They are super, super, super criminals. They are super criminal. I can't exaggerate it to, and this is why when you do deep research and you look into the Bush family, Clinton, Hillary Clinton, we're talking criminality on a level that is just mind-blowing. And the way for them to get into the power position they are in now, it's decorated with dead bodies in multiple lines. I'm not saying this easily. These are facts based on many researchers that have risked their lives to get this information out there. Also understand that the way that they control us, a major tool of theirs is the black box in front of you. That is like a megaphone of the way they pump out the media.
Oh, yeah.
Out their messages. So one way is to turn it off. Turn it off, Start looking around. You see that you've got friends and family around. Maybe you haven't spoken to, you see suddenly you have children and a wife. My God, I haven't spoken to them or played with them for a long time. Join your family, join your friends, join your communities, and start understanding what's going on. All of these different news channels, you think that they're separate, that they're different, that they're spreading, each of them are real journalists out there looking for the truth? Absolutely not. They're owned by very few people, and this is how they've done with the whole world, centralizing the power to fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer.
Right, and the TV, it's all mind control. It's all mind control and propaganda.
It's even called TV programs.
Exactly.
Listen to it. They say that brainwash is such a horrible thing. When you listen to the word brainwash, I think this is exactly what we need. We need to wash our brains, rinse it properly, in clean, beautiful water, and get some real information in there, because we have been, at the same time, we need to be gentle on ourselves, because we're up against the most advanced propaganda machine the world has ever seen to this up until now. We're being pumped with it from all sides and directions. So don't feel bad if you've been asleep. We've all been it at some level, you know. We still are, most of us, uncovering new things on a daily basis when I'm just like, oh my God, you must be kidding me. I bought that one as well. It's an ongoing process.
I was completely bought in for the longest time. And you mentioned earlier in the show that when you do find out and you start to realize that it's all a big lie, at first it's mind boggling. You have to take a step back and look at it, and you're thinking to yourself, really? This is how it really is? Where have I been living? So you've been living in some virtual reality, some fantasy land that they created for you because you bought into all the programming and all that stuff. And then when you do wake up, it is an eye opener. It really is. But there is no going back once your eyes open.
No, there's not. But I sometimes compare it to when you lose a loved one. You know, first you got total denial, then you got like once you can't deny it anymore. Some people go into fear mode or anger or hatred or all of these things, very strong feelings, and then after that follows like it's often that you bury yourself in these things and you go into a downward spiral and a depression. Then hopefully on the other side of that you can find a way back and find yourself in a position of some kind of balance. And I think this is what we need to aim for, because if we use their tools, their tool is force, brutal force. If we meet them with violence, they will just squash us. I mean, we're up against Mike Tyson. You know, it's like they
Right.
will use whatever to squash us. The thing that they cannot control is the truth. And also, I would say they're very, very aware of frequencies. This might sound a bit new agey, but I tell you, the lowest in this universe is the one we call pure terror, pure fear. And one of the highest frequencies, if not the highest one, it's higher than the frequency of thoughts, is what is called pure love. I'm not talking about love, I fancy you, baby, that type of love. I'm talking about the love where that will make a mother pull off a car of her child in a car accident, or a father just jump right into a building that is on fire to save someone, you know, save a child or something. That love. When you take in a laboratory and you let these two frequencies meet, a very high and a very low, what happens is that it's not that they start struggling and end up somewhere in the middle, in the gray zone. No, the lower energy just get annulled. It just disappears. And it's just like when you go into a dark room, you think, oh my God, it's so scary. And then you put on the light, boom, it's light. It's not that the shadows are struggling and say, I'm not leaving, and you have to pull them out, fight them. Here they just disappear. And I believe that this so-called elite, I prefer calling them minority or the lightless, they are so aware of this that this is one of the main reasons why they want to keep us in fear mode, down in the dirt, you know, down with your head in the mud, because then they can control you. Their energy is somewhat higher than ours. But if you can really get your energy high up, it's a lot more difficult to control you. So a recommendation is to really focus to get out of fear mode. Because there are such things as dangers. Dangers exist for sure. But fear is only in the mind. It is only something that is happening in the mind. And it is a fear of something that is yet to happen. So it is in the mind where you can start controlling it.
That's exactly right. I mean, their ace in the hole is fear. And that's what we see around us. I mean, if you watch the news, Ollie, I'm sure you have the same thing where you are. All they ever report on is bad stuff, negative stuff, terror, shootings. It's all fear-based.
I know. And it's done by design, you know. You know, it was really interesting. In '84, I took an old bicycle and I was heading south, just going out in the world. I didn't know where I was going, so I was heading for South Africa. And instead I ended up in Iran, and right in the middle of the war between Iran and Iraq. And I put it all in one of my books called Shadow of Tears. It ended up with me helping some beautiful Iranian people smuggled one of them out through former Russia, East Germany, up to Sweden, where he's now a heart specialist. And we managed to get 7 more people out there as well. But one of the things, when I was down there, this was a country in absolute turmoil, such an extreme, awful, awful situation. But in the newspapers, I have a clip to this very day where it says, never before has Iran had it this good. This beautiful thing happened today. This good thing happened. I was like blown away, because when I read the newspaper in Sweden, it's just awful, awful, awful. And I heard this interview with a journalist, and she was asked the question, what is news? And she said, well, news is what differs from normal daily life, meaning that if you live in a perfect society, no violence, no all of these things, then media will pump you with fear. If you live in a very awful situation where if you go too low, they will have a revolution on their hand, then they need to keep you up. So they will give you good news instead to hold you up. So it was really the total opposite. Really interesting to see the two different sides of news.
Yeah, it's all manipulation at the end of the day.
Total. And one of the things that they use in media or to control you are these so-called false flag operations. Nowadays, oh my God, it's on such a regular basis. And they use an old Roman tactic called problem, reaction, solution. They secretly create a problem, a bomb, a virus, a financial scare, or whatever it is, to get what they want is to get a reaction from the population. The one they're looking for is this emotional, oh my God, we're going down, something needs to be done. And then the population will turn towards the people who they were not aware of, secretly created a problem, for the solution that will then be served to you. And this solution, every single time, will cost you more and more liberties. There will be more and more surveillance, more and more militarized police, robocops, tanks in the streets, drones in the sky, people that can kick in your door, your liberties going out the window. All of that, had it not been for the so-called problem, you would never have accepted the solution. Very important to become aware of these things, because they're doing it on a daily basis now.
Are you seeing their false flags becoming less effective, Ole, like the recent Paris shooting? We had the Boston bombing here, Sandy Hook. It appears to me that through the alternative research and the alternative media, that a lot of viewpoints and counterpoints are being presented to the public, which is taking the air out of their tires. That it's not as easy for them as maybe it was in the past to get these false flags implemented and then get their agenda put in place.
That's wonderful times. It's wonderful times because it's falling apart around them, because they have been using the same theme for so many years. It's like if you watch Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, when it's Rocky 42, it's not easy when you're supposed to do Rocky 42 to come up with a new theme.
Yeah.
I mean, who's he going to fight? He's still the underdog. Who is he? Why? If he's just a bully, he can't win, and people are going to go out, yay. How are you going to do it? You got to need Jim Carrey, get him on the stage, to create a new Iceman or whatever. They're running out of options. And the thing is, we're not afraid. We don't buy the fear anymore. It's not like, with the whole Al-Qaeda, my God, the boogeyman they built out of their own database, the Al-Qaeda database, where the CIA trained, financed all of these groups to do, we're just talking mercenaries. They carry them out and, this terror, this is the enemy, boogeyman. Then, after a while, when you can't even scare infants anymore with the Al-Qaeda, what are we going to do? People are turning away. They don't care anymore. Then you go, not so fast. Here is ISIS. And here he comes from absolute nowhere. The boogeyman in a new, Ninja Turtle outfit. The whole, come on. In the old days, with the JFK assassination, good budget, very skilled people, high level, everything, loads of preparation, and so on. Excellent work if you look upon it. They even call it the big event. Still, after 50 years, we're confused. That is incredible That is really well done. Now, I mean, come on, they can't even be proud of it. It's so sloppy, it's so bad, it's not that you need to be a rocket scientist to see, for instance, in Paris, the car that these two terrorists jumps out and they shoot this police officer. It is a Citroën C3 2014 with chromed side mirrors. The car that was found when they dumped it and ran away, and where the whole forensic team came in, found the ID of the terrorist and so on, that then linked these two brothers to the whole crime and got the whole thing going, was a Citroën C3 2013 with black side mirrors. It's not even the same vehicle. I mean, come on. It's sloppy. Not good, but perfect for someone like me. Because right there, it's a dead giveaway.
Now, do you think they're sloppy only because they've concluded enough of the masses are so dumbed down that they don't have to put a lot of articulation into their false flags? They can actually do the sloppy stuff, and the vast majority of the people will go with it, and mission accomplished.
Well, so far it's been like that, and I can totally understand that they don't have a lot of respect for us, because if you can pull off the same trick like 100 times and people are still so surprised, beats me.
Yeah.
It beats me. But this is why I've done hundreds of interviews trying to expose the templates in great detail so that people will start seeing the signs how these things are pulled off. Because it's just like if you look at a magician when he's doing some magic trick and you think, oh my God, that's pure magic. This is incredible. Then the second time he does it, oh my God, that's incredible. The third and the fourth and the fifth time, you start looking around and not totally focused on his left hand where the trick is done. And you start seeing, but what's going on with his right hand behind his back? Maybe you change the position and you stand so that you can see what's going on behind his back, and suddenly you see that's where it all happens,
Right.
And as soon as that magic is broken, when the spell is broken, from that point onwards, you will not buy into that trick anymore. As soon as he starts moving his left hand, you say, I've seen that one before, So this is why I try to put such focus on showing the templates, so that people, as soon as they see they try and pull one of these up, here we go again. And this will, in a totally non-violent way, in the end, stop it, because they won't be able to pull it off. And I think they're getting very, very desperate now. They're really trying. This is why it's speeding up now with all of it's going on. I think they're even taking this whole thing on a global tour, using the same background extras and so on a global tour, Sydney, Ottawa, Pakistan, London, the Woolwich beheading, the same team of crisis actors. So I don't envy them, because they've been able to get away with this for so many years, because they've been hiding in the dark, pulling the strings when nobody's seeing it. And now suddenly they got this massive spotlight aimed right at them, and they don't know where to go. History is so important to study. If you take the Bush family, for instance, Prescott Bush, who's the granddad of the latest President Bush, he was part of getting the US involved in the First World War. He was part of faking the so-called Zimmerman telegram. That was it was a false flag duping the US to join the First World War. Then in the Second World War, we also had, when it came to the First World War, I'm just pointing out certain players. It's not them on their own. They're just some of the front figures being part of this global elite as some of the players. There's also the two brothers, Alan and John Foster Dulles. They were Wall Street lawyers, and they were actually the architects of the peace treaty of Versailles, the one where Germany had to sign under in total surrender and totally devastate the country. So you got Prescott Bush and these two brothers, Wall Street lawyers. Then some years later, Prescott Bush was one of the key people to fund the Hitler war machine, coming with loads and loads of money. I'm not talking about his own money, but funneling the funds into IG Farben and other companies like that. Alan Dulles and John Foster Dulles, the two Wall Street lawyers, were some of Hitler's lawyers. We're talking about this global elite pumping money into creating an enemy, because what they do is they fund both sides of wars. They want conflict, they want war, they want destruction. This is their game. Then after the Second World War, the Nazi war machine went down. Thank God we got rid of the Nazis. No, sorry. You had a handful of patsies in Nuremberg in the trial there, Goering and some other people that had to take the fall for it. You hanged them, you killed them, you put them in jail. And then the whole world was like, oh, thank you, thank you. Now peace and world, love and understanding for the rest. No, sorry. Allen Dulles, and together with the cooperation of the Vatican State and other, started what was called Operation Paperclip, exporting these Nazis. I think there was about 16,000 Nazis, very, very skilled Nazis, that was exported out of Nazi Germany into the US and into many different Latin American countries. In the States, they were part of building up NASA. They were part of creating the CDC, the Center of Disease Control, that was lately involved in the big Ebola hoax. And then they were part of creating the OSS, which later turned into the CIA. So you got all of these very, very strong connections to the Bush, the Dulles, and so on, and with very, very Nazi roots, okay? Then come the time of the early 60s, where Prescott Bush has brought forward, he was one of the guys getting Dwight Eisenhower into a position where he was elected president. He was a former general. And also Richard Nixon. He was one of Bush, servants, if you want to say, low-key lieutenants. So at the end of the 50s and the beginning of the 1960s, Dulles and other people in the CIA came up with the idea that, listen, we're going to go global here. And we need a team of highly skilled assassins that we can use to take out whoever we have problems with. Presidents, prime ministers, whoever, business leaders, whoever we have a problem with, if we want to, we just want to be able to eliminate them, kill them, blow them up, whatever. So we need this team. So the task was given to Richard Nixon, and he created what was called Operation 40. Operation 40 was a team of assassins that was under the supervision of top people in the CIA. These were people like Ted Shackley, also called the Blonde Ghost. He was later, he was involved in hundreds of assassinations globally, and he was later the chief of covert operation for the Western Hemisphere. I mean, this is big, one of the big players. Another one of his colleagues were David Atlee Phillips, who had the same position later in life. And you had another one, E. Howard Hunt. E. Howard Hunt was later famous in the Watergate burglary and involved in many things, including the JFK assassination. Now, what these people did, the CIA, they went down to Miami and started recruiting exiled Cubans that had fled from Cuba, coming into Miami. And they were mostly like former police, military, Air Force, former Batista agents, and so on. They recruit these people because they were very brutal and very determined and easy to turn into killing machines. They were trained in Louisiana, they were trained in Florida, and they were trained in Guatemala in different teams. This is also where people like Lee Harvey Oswald was involved in, where the weapons and everything was supplied to these different camps and so on. One of the first tasks was to kill Fidel Castro. They didn't manage to do that. But then after the so-called missile crisis, where Russia had sent a ship with missiles going towards Cuba, and Kennedy said, if you pass this longitude, we need to stop you, and we will push the button. We will start the Third World War if you don't back off. By mistake, this ship continued, crossed the line, so the whole military-industrial complex was just shouting at Kennedy, press the button, press the button, press. And then people who were there said that he was standing with tears in his eyes just saying, I refuse to be the one who do this to the world. I personally believe that that was the time where Kennedy turned from being quite easily manipulated individual as a president into a very, very determined, very powerful, strong man, brave man that just said, my God, we need to stop this madness. And from then on, suddenly he turned against people who had helped him into power. He turned against the military-industrial complex. He turned about and he said, I'm going to crush the CIA into 1,000 pieces. I'm going to get out of this strangulation grip from the Federal Bank Reserve. I'm going to get out of Vietnam. That war hadn't even started on the American part. There was just some thousand advisors in Vietnam. There was a French war before. And he just continued like that, saying, totally getting out of course against the agenda of this elite. So they said, we need to sort this guy out now, and we need to statue an example so that no one else does the same. So they decided to take him out in broad daylight. The reason for that, they could have just as well just put a pill in his coffee, creating a heart attack or something like that. But they shot him right out in the open in front of cameras, people, audience, TV audience from all over the world. The statement that they made was, we can get anyone at any time, so you better back off and stay in line. This is also, they do that on a regular basis, these type of assassinations. And this is also when you look at these big political killings, these big conspiracies, they're almost always, I would say they're always followed by like a secondary conspiracy, a conspiracy of silence. It is the official version, it's the patsy, or total silence. Nobody says anything, nobody makes any comments, nobody like that. And that's due to the statement. Many of the people in the power, the corridors of power, they don't know the details about the assassination, but they know the power behind it. And they know if they step out of line, they will be next.
What is the power behind it, Ole? Some of the audience might be saying to themselves, well, when we talk about the power behind the scenes or behind the curtain, who are these people or organizations?
The famous day.
The famous day.
The famous day. I can say that over these 30 years, I come up to a certain level in the power pyramid. If you look at so many different areas of life, they've turned it into like a power pyramid, totally compartmentalized, and where only the very few at the very top of the pyramid knows the whole picture, knows the whole agenda. Otherwise, it's chopped up in pieces so that people only know their little part of the puzzle. They have no idea about the whole machine. I've taken it up to a level that is absolutely not the top of the pyramid. I leave that to other researchers that are more passionate about finding out about and also more skilled in finding out that part. But way up in the power pyramid are groups like the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Committee of 300, the Skull and Bones, and many members are member in more than one of these societies.
Right.
These are like, not all of them are secret, but they meet in secrecy, and it's at their meeting where it's officially said that they're only like think tanks where people meet to discuss golf and so on. But like with a Bilderberg Group, with absolute top security, helicopters, snipers, you name it, no one is getting anywhere close to these meetings. And this is where the real agenda is being decided. And then after these meetings, you can see the year after how it's carried out in the world. In my book, Coup d'etat in slow motion, the last 200 pages, it's actually 1,100 pages, the last 200 pages are just the membership list of the Bilderberg Group from 1954 when it was created to 2014. All that I've been able to find out, all the members, the secret members, the secret agenda, the locations where they've been meeting in deep secrecy and so on. Because it's only when you start seeing how these secret networks work that you will start to understand what's going on and how so many of these things, so many of these atrocities and so on are connected. It's the same small little so-called power elite that are pulling it off. It's incredible when you look at it.
For the audience that may be listening and may be getting acclimated for the first time, so as an example, Ole, the President of the United States then is not even close to the top of the power pyramid.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The President is a very nice front face, He's only selected there because he works in media, because he looks good, because he's good for their. It's like chess. They're playing chess, and it's just a matter of how can we do the population into our next step. What is needed for our next step, and then. But to get to the position there, these guys in the White House and other places like that, white-haired guy and guys, you see them for the first time when they're suddenly a candidate for presidency and so on. These people have proven their loyalty to the cause over many years, and many of them have dipped hands in blood, totally corrupting themselves. Otherwise, they wouldn't get to that level. There's like a massive filter stopping any people from getting up there. And it's right in front of your eyes. The word government, it actually means governmente. It's Latin, and it means control, mind control. That's the exact translation of the word government. It's right there in front of you. And they will tell you, like the president, it's not even his own words. He has teleprompters with public relationship companies writing the words. This is why Obama looks a bit to the left. That's where one prompter is, and then he looks to the right. It's not because he's looking at the audience. He's reading the words on the left, and then he's reading the words on the right. It's not his words. And Obama, why he was picked, very beautiful voice, very nice, pleasant personality. You just want to trust him. But look at the actions, what is going on behind the scenes. It will freak you out, I tell you, if you see what's going on. One thing, for instance, like the executive orders, like the president had the possibility to declare or decide executive orders. And if you look at over the years, like Dwight Eisenhower, I think he had 3 while he was president. This is a thing that can be used in extreme situations. That's where these executive orders can be carried out and decided and so on. You have Eisenhower, I think it was 3. You had Kennedy, 4. You had all of these different presidents, 4, 5, 3, 4, up until Clinton. I think Clinton had 16. Bush Sr., who's a real player, a lot more. How many do you think Obama? I don't know the latest number. 923.
Yeah, that's a dictatorship.
We're talking tyrant.
Yeah.
We're talking tyrant. But he is only a front figure. It's not him. It's in my opinion, after all of these years, JFK was the last real elected president, even though there was some fraud involved with the Chicago mob in Illinois and so on, to get him in there. It was a very close reign. It was the closest ever, as far as I know, only 100,000 between Nixon and JFK. When they took him out, it was a coup d'etat, a very, very brutal coup d'etat. And the group that took over there has stayed in power and just changed the front face. They even at times used actors like Ronald Reagan, just to get a nice personality up there, telling you the things that you need to hear or want to hear. It's very easy. Freedom, liberty, less taxes for you. They will tell you whatever, change, we are changed. Whatever you want to hear, they will tell you. But Look at the actions. Turn down the volume and see what's going on. And you will see this is the reason why nothing changes. Republicans, Democrats, it doesn't matter. It's the play that they have set up, and this is not only in the States, it's more or less in all Western countries as far as I know. 2 major parties and then some small ones, giving you an illusion of democracy. Which one should I vote for? Which one should I choose? Whatever you choose, it's just different arms of the same body, like an octopus.
Yeah, it's the same
agenda. It's just an illusion. The game is same agenda. That's why nothing changes. Do you know, I wrote a song in 97. It's called From Prison to Paradise. Would you mind if I read it? Because I think the lyrics are very much up still to this day.
No, go ahead, Ole. Yes, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, it's called From Prison to Paradise. This is an expression that David Icke used to use, and I was blown away after meeting him the first time. So I went home and I wrote this song. You can find it on my website, Light on Conspiracies. Go in there, music, you can download all of the songs for free and so on. It goes like this, from prison to paradise. Once upon a time, in a place not far from here, there was so much loneliness, despair, and oh so much fear. Darkness ruled all over the land, there were lightning in the sky, causing wars and separation, with no one knowing why. These evil times raised leaders, disguised as kind and true, hiding the truth in misty fog, so only very few people knew. Controlled by an elite few, manipulating you and me, closing out the light and power that can make us all be free. Wake up, we gotta wake up. Wake up, we gotta wake up now. Forced by invisible powers, demanded to conform into shapes unknown to mankind, making him totally abnormal. Drowned in debts and sorrows, blaming others for their lot, made man believe to be inferior, feeling tiny like a dot. And then, now we're here in 2015. But then came time of change, covering countries and their towns. Few became many, and soon the prison walls came down. Starting with the men in the mirror staring right back into their eyes, understanding that this was a chance to stop those hideous lies. Unhappiness is merely an illusion of misery, based on brainwash and a misconception of true reality. From now on, let's build bridges between our souls and hearts, so we together can rejoice when the final change comes to its start. Wake up, we gotta wake up. Wake up, we gotta wake up now. Turning prison into paradise may seem too much to achieve, but believe me, it only takes one strong spirit to be free. The true power of a pyramid is never ever at the top. Instead, it's we the people that can make this global game stop. Did you get it? Wake up, we gotta wake up now.
Well, that was brilliant, Ole.
Thank you. It was in 1994, something like that, I wrote it. It's still very much the game. And we've just been taking for a ride based on so many lies for such a long time. So this is a beautiful time, I would say, to wake up. Because this is the time it's going to happen, in my opinion. We're beyond the tipping point. This is not what you're going to be told by the TV in front of you. They will say the whole world is in a total mess. There's terrorists everywhere, violence everywhere, wars everywhere. I tell you, if my vision is correct, it's not. We live in a beautiful place that is messed up. You know, there's been there's like a bully in a playground in a neighborhood, a small bully or one bully that has terrorized the whole place. And it's only because we have not been aware of what's going on. Now when we're waking up, when we're opening our eyes, when we see that, my God, he's only one. And we are this many. You look at this group, they're only a few thousand. We are billions.
Right.
We're billions. So it's like, this is why many times I speak directly to members of the elite. If it's okay, I'll be happy to do it here as well.
Yes, absolutely.
I would like to say this to the members of the elite. Please understand that the game is over. We see you. We see what you're up to. You have been hiding behind dark veils, very, very cowardly, putting off awful things, awful atrocities, all in the name of extreme greed, of extreme evil, I would say, and awful stuff. But now the time has come to understand that we're not buying it anymore. The spotlight has been aimed at you. We see you with no imagination. You can't come up with new tactics or whatever. You tried everything. You tried chemtrails. You tried hitting us with HAARP. You tried all of these different viruses. I mean, you can't even come up with any good new ones. So you need to use old ones like the Ebola that was created in the 70s. You tried to hit us with all of these fake false flag operations, terror acts, whatever, but we're still standing. We are billions, you are only thousands. So it's really a wake-up time for you to stop this madness. The sooner you do it, the more we will welcome you. If you have some kind of courage, it takes courage, I know that, because with so many awful things on your conscience that you have been part of, I totally can understand why you might not be able to sleep at night and totally freaking out, being afraid of being lynched and so on. But I tell you, the more you will have the courage to stand up in total transparency, become whistleblowers, show what you have been part of, show your little part of it, the more you come forward. If you regret what you have, if you say from the bottom of your heart, I am so sorry for what I have been part of creating. If you come from the heart, we will welcome you. And the sooner you do that, the sooner we can meet, the sooner healing can take place. Because we need to heal, all of us. There's so much suffering, and it's time for it to stop. So I urge you, please have some kind of balls and come forward. We will welcome you. But the longer you wait, the more of a coward you continue to be, the colder the embrace will be. The ship is going down. If I'm correct, the ship is going down. We're beyond the tipping point. So it's only a matter of time before this happens. So please step forward.
Excellent words, Ole. And what they have to understand, and I know you understand this, there's this thing called karma.
And this is the thing, this is why I don't hate them. I don't despise them. I don't have these strong feelings for them. But what I say is what they have created, they're, just like you say, karma. This is not going to be an easy one for them because they have created a lot of awful stuff. A lot of awful stuff. So I do not envy them. What I do say is it's so important for the rest of us when we wake up to not use violence, to not do so-called revolutions. Listen to the word revolution. It's you repeat what was there. And if you study history once again, you will see that, as far as I know, every single time when there is a revolution, a few years down the line, these people who did the revolution have become totally corrupt, in the power system, and have turned out even worse than the people they chopped the head off. So that is not the way to go either. We need to transcend over this, to transcend it by not using force, by not using, going into hatred and revenge and all of these things. They need to stand accountable. They need to take whatever justice or sentences, whatever. I don't have solution for this. I don't know these things, but I think it's extremely important how the rest of us deal with this if we want to create a beautiful future and not just repeating itself.
Well, the solution is people waking up, because once people wake up, then the tactics and their little scheming and everything else, it just doesn't work anymore. So that's the key. The key is the work that you're doing and that others are doing, which is to get the awakening to a point of critical mass. Because at that point, in my view, what's going on will fall like a house of cards.
Do you know the domino effect?
Yes.
Most people think that it's like you put a line of dominoes and one domino has the power to knock the next one over. Not really. The domino effect is that it has the power to knock over one that is 1.5 the size of itself. The power of the movement has the impact so it can knock over 1.5 the size. I've seen beautiful experiments, like if you start with one that is 1 millimeter thick, that I don't know what that is in inches, but it's like nothing, like a nail, fingernail type of thickness, and 5 millimeter high, that's like half a fingernail. If you take that one and then you put that in a line where every single one is 1.5 the size of the one before them, in 19 steps, the size of the one that it can knock over, starting with 1 millimeter, is the size of the Empire State Building. I'm saying do not underestimate the power of the truth. Do not underestimate the power of you as an individual. And these domino things, it works in circular motions. It goes in all directions. So just imagine what you listening now, when you're waking up, the power you have. But you need to be aware of it so that the power that you spread, the circles that goes out from you, are loving circles, fearless circles. I'm not talking about wimps or people saying being like easy pushovers. I'm saying we need to confront these things, but with the intention of healing. We need to heal this planet because it's in a bad state at the moment. We need to heal Mother Earth and get her back where she needs to be so that she can so generously take care of us like she's always done, but in a more healthy state. Beautiful time we live in, I tell you.
It's a great time to be here. It's tough, but
Yeah.
it's very tough. But you know what? If we can get this ball over the goal line, it's going to be remarkable. Absolutely remarkable.
Wow. I get goosebumps when I think of it. And I tell you, in my opinion, it's just down the road. It's not like in a year or so. I think we're talking month, half, 6 months maybe or something like that. I just feel it inside me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of things now that I wasn't seeing a few years ago, kind of kinks in the armor. We were mentioning before, they're false flags are basically not working anymore. They're being dissected and they're being revealed almost instantaneously, after they happen as frauds and hoaxes. So it's just things like that I'm seeing, only that gives me hope that we can keep the momentum going. And by keeping that momentum going, that we will be able to make the shift. And like you said, get Mother Earth, get the planet, get humanity back to its rightful place, which is at the top of the pyramid, not at the bottom where we are today.
And let's embrace the whole thing. Let's do it in circular things.
Yeah.
Now one above the other. See everybody as powerful individuals, beautiful individuals, very diverse and colors and looks and whatever. Like we're all unique, but we need to see that like the word ill, like a sickness, that is I with two L's, and well, that is we with two L's. From illness to wellness, if you go away from the I thinking, I, me, mine, which is, in my opinion, the straight road into depression. When you're too focused on yourself, not caring about other people, you're going in a downward spiral. So when you change your way of thinking into we, what can I do for us? Just like Kennedy said, don't ask what your country can do for you. What can you do for the people around you, for the community, for your country, for your world? Ask these questions so that it's we. The word we, the wellness instead of illness, embrace this. And I think, people often ask me, yeah, but what can I do? What can I do? Because I'm not a researcher. I can't sit there all day. I can't do this. No, you're not supposed to either. But what you can do is you can do good, spread good. The life is full of opportunities to help. There's so much despair, loneliness, and sadness out there in the world. People that are confused and distressed and so on. Reach out for them, because it's like they have been ruling through conquer, through what you call it, divide and conquer, to ruin communities, to ruin relationship, your neighbors, your neighborhood. They want you to totally go into fear and only think about yourself. Let's turn it around. Let's get the feeling back in communities. Let's start caring about your neighbors, start caring about your friends, your family, your children. Get back in the feeling, start saying, what can I do for the people around me? And then the more people who do that, the stronger society becomes, and the more difficult it is to push us over because we're just not going to buy it anymore, and we're going to start taking care of each other and, grow your own food instead of having like marathon runs and stuff like that. Go take a certain part of the city, like a ghetto or something like that, and say, okay, now we're going to have a race. The one that can fill up the most garbage dump, whatever you call it, garbage bin, ready, steady, go, boom, and just do something good with these type of things. Clean it up, get the harmony back, and stimulate life around you. This is what they don't want you to, because it will gain the momentum, it will gain the power in the individuals.
Because that's your natural state of being as a human being. Everything we're doing today is unnatural. And so if we start moving toward...
Your heart knows.
Yes, exactly. we start moving toward our natural existence, then everything will start to fall in place. Right now, we have this big, gigantic mess because everybody is essentially out of their natural element and they're doing things that are just they're not natural to being a human.
Look at children. Look at how children are with animals. They hug them, they love them, they don't kick them if they're not being messed up by their parents and so on.
Right.
The natural state of the human being is a caring, loving thing, but we've been so pushed out of balance. So get back to the child state where you start following and listen to your heart, and then spread this around. Do random acts of kindness, drive-by huggings instead of drive-by shootings. And also, I think when you see police officers that are doing a really good job, that are standing up to defend the population and really do what they're supposed to do, go there, honor them, make it worthwhile. So maybe some of their corrupt colleagues will see, whoa, maybe I should start shaping up, because look at this. Instead of these people, they're so fearful, the good guys, I think, because they're so surrounded by all of these the dark things. So start honoring the good people in society, lift forward these beautiful people.
Absolutely. Those are very wise words, Oli. I come from a family of police officers. My father was a New York City police officer, and my father is a good guy. And he's been retired a long time, but we had a lot of family members that were on the police force, and they were family guys. They had children, they had wives, they had barbecues. They did everything that most people do. And like you said, we have a few bad apples, and we can't allow those people to commandeer the entire picture.
No, I totally agree. So let's support the ones and honor the ones that really have the courage to stand up for us, because they're in a tricky situation. The same goes for military people who starts waking up and saying, my God, I need to pull out of this. I'm not going to pull the trigger. I'm not going to commit any more atrocities. I know that this is a very difficult situation to do that, and that you might lose your benefits, and that you might be in a situation where you don't know how to take care of your family and so on. But please understand, the price that you are paying, it's way too high. It is on a level where you destroy your soul doing these things. You become a wreck, and they do it on purpose. They fear strong individuals. They fear them. And can I also say that one of the ways that a friend of mine told me this, he was a former pro in a football player, and he said something that I never thought of before, that they have designed it so that they pull out or suck out the alpha males of society into sports, where they get them out of the ball game, so that these people will not become activists or strong leaders or anything like that. They get them into, sorry for saying it, a totally meaningless game. How fast can I run? How long can I kick this ball? How high can I jump? Things like that. These people are then, once they're in that, these are his words, being a former pro himself, they're totally surrounded by things that would corrupt them as people. Drugs, prostitutes, fans, big money, all of these things. It's very hard to withstand, and then the bodies get totally messed up in these sports, so that they become wrecks, and so they're neutralized.
Exactly. Well, that's the game plan. And once they have people compromised, it's not just with ball players, it goes with politicians and so on. It becomes a very, very difficult task for that person to want to climb up out of that hole, because they'll say to them, look, you know what, we have the following goods on you. And if you open your mouth, or if you do something, or you decide that, you're going to be a good guy, then we're going to wreck your life.
This is done by design, and the FBI is one of the major ones doing these things. Yep. Also the Freemasonry networks. So I would say to people in the FBI, or whoever is in these organizations, is totally messing everything up, destroying it for your children as well. You are part of it. You are also breathing in the chemtrails from these awful planes, spreading all these poisons and so on. They don't care about you. So it's a matter of stopping it. Stop the madness. I loved it during the Second World War in Denmark when the German tanks came in. The only thing they needed to do was take a few spoons of sugar and chuck into the tank of and it would just totally ruin this very brutal killing machine. The machines would just stop.
Yeah.
You have one of these super duper ultrasonic blah 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 tanks nowadays, or fighter jets or something like that. You take out one little piece, it can be just the size of a square inch if it's a cog inside of the engine or something. You pull that one out, you get the whole thing to stop.
Yeah, sometimes the solutions are just very, very simple.
And you can be that cog.
Yeah.
By you stepping out, it can just stop the whole thing. It can ruin the whole thing and liberate us. So I would say anyone who works at FEMA camps, who are working for the IRS, trying to collect all of these totally illegal taxes, throwing people out of their houses due to them not being able to pay these totally illegal taxes that they're being forced to pay, police officers, SWAT teams that knock their head in on people that are just demonstrating, saying, please let me grow my own vegetables, and then you bash their head in.
Yeah.
Wake up. There's no honor in that. Where is your honor? Look yourself in the mirror and say, is this the reason I became a police officer or whatever? SWAT teams, all of us, electricians who go and install things on FEMA camps and other places, people who sell surveillance things. I mean, you are making it easy for them to control you as well. The NSA, if these are the people who mess up interviews like this, come on, guys, get a life. Life is short. Let's celebrate this time on Earth instead of messing it up like this. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. Sort yourself out and see that just because you get a fat paycheck now doesn't mean that tomorrow they won't get rid of you.
Everybody's discardable in this little game.
Totally, and so are the people in the elite. They're in deep, deep, deep shark waters. They need to understand that. So nobody is safe. My vision, I will not stop. I'm just an ordinary person. I'm one single guy, but my intention is total ceasefire, total peace, no wars anywhere, total harmony and unity between people. Chip Tatum said that sounded just like a Miss America speech. I'm fine with that. It's still my vision, and I won't give up until it's done, or I'll die surprised that I didn't make it. Anyway, if anyone wants to support me, please, finances is the thing where I'm really weak. So there's, on my website, Light on Conspiracies, there's a newsletter, there's membership areas, there's donation buttons. I'm not paid by anyone. I have no interest in doing this. It's just that I really want to do everything I can to be part of creating a beautiful future for all of us. And if I may, I would very much like to finish with a prayer.
Absolutely, Ole.
I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person like all of us are. It goes like this. It's my Raja Yoga teacher, Melanie Chelaram, who normally says this one. And it goes like this. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who hurt us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. Victory to that light. We all need to heal. If they don't heal, it will just continue. We all need to heal.
Well, that was very beautiful, Ole. I have to tell you, this is one of the best interviews I've ever had, and it's been such a pleasure having you on the show.
And Mike, I just want to say it's an absolute honor and joy to be on your show anytime. If you want to do this on a weekly basis, monthly basis, yearly basis, or never ever again, up to you. Give me a shot, I'm right there.
I'd love to have you come back, and next go around, we'll get into maybe the John Lennon assassination and some of the other work that you've done, Marilyn Monroe, Jimi Hendrix. I mean, I think there's so much education that you could bring to people. So many folks have just bought into the official story on all of these assassinations, or they just don't give it any thought whatsoever, and they don't understand. When you don't give it thought, then you're not understanding the impact to your own life. Your work is absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
Okay, my friend, I don't want to keep you. You've done a lot of interviews today.
I tell you, I did. The first one was between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. this
Oh
morning.
my, oh my.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it's been but it's a beautiful ending of the day now. So I'm going to go and snore my head off soon. It's been a real joy meeting you.
You also. And I want you to have a great evening. Get some sleep.
We'll do that.
Okay.
Take care.
And that concludes our interview with Ole Dammegård, and I hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. Ole's work is completely self-funded, so if you could take a moment and visit his website, lightonconspiracies.com, and consider donating or sponsoring his work, it would be greatly appreciated. You can also purchase Ole's books at his site, including the highly acclaimed Coup d'etat in Slow Motion. And as always, I'd like to thank everyone for listening and visiting the blog. You can get to the blog by typing in sageofquayradio.blogspot.com or simply head over to our hub website at sageofquay.com. Also, if you get a moment, please visit laboroflovemusic.com to listen to my album, Leaving Dystopia. And remember, live in truth and always serve creation. It's really that simple. And to sign off, here's Ole's song, From Prison to Paradise. See everyone next week. Be safe, enjoy, and God bless.
It's our future.
Once upon a time, in a place not far from here, there was so much loneliness, despair, and oh so much fear. Darkness ruled all over the land, there was lightning in the sky, causing wars and separation, with no one knowing why. These evil times raised leaders, disguised as kinda true, hiding the true and misty fogs only very few people knew. Controlled by an elite few, manipulating you and me, closing out the light of power that will make us all be free. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Starting with a wind in the mirror, staring right back into their eyes, understanding that this was a chance to stop those hideous lies. But happiness is merely an illusion of misery, based on brainwashing and misconception of true reality. From now on, let's build bridges between our souls and hearts, so we together can rejoice when the final change comes to its start. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. We gotta wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. We gotta wake up. Turn prison into paradise may seem too much to achieve, but believe it only takes one small spirit to be free. The true